Corinthians 12, 1-10, KJV. It is not expedient for me doubtless to glory. I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body, I cannot tell, or whether out of the body, I cannot tell. God knoweth. Such an one caught up to the third heaven. And I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. God knoweth. How that he was caught up into paradise, and heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such an one will I glory, yet of myself I will not glory, but in mine infirmities. For though I would desire to glory, I shall not be a fool, for I will say the truth. But now I forbear, lest any man should think of me above that which he seeth me to be, or that he heareth of me. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly therefore will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. Malcolm Carter was a man on fire for God. Ever since he gave his life to Christ, he dedicated every part of himself to ministry. By day, he worked as a contractor. By night, he led Bible studies and helped at the homeless shelter. People admired his passion and called him a man of God. But what they didn't know was the battle he fought in secret. Malcolm had been struggling with severe anxiety, waves of panic that would hit him out of nowhere, sometimes even during his sermons. His hands would shake, his chest would tighten, and he'd feel like he couldn't breathe. He cried out to God repeatedly, Lord, please take this from me. How can I lead your people when I can barely hold myself together? 3 times, through fasting, prayer, and counsel, Malcolm begged for deliverance. But the anxiety stayed. It embarrassed him. He felt unworthy to minister when he himself felt so weak. One Sunday, Malcolm was invited to preach at a large church. The sanctuary was packed. As he walked to the pulpit, his heart began to race and his vision blurred, the familiar signs of an attack. His hands trembled so badly he almost dropped his Bible. He froze. Fear told him to run, but something deeper whispered, Trust me. Malcolm closed his eyes and said, I didn't expect this, but I need to share something real. For a long time, I've battled anxiety. I've pleaded with God to take it away, but instead, he gave me something greater, his grace. I stand before you, not as a perfect man, but as a broken man held together by Christ. The room grew still. Then, one by one, people began to nod, some wiping tears from their eyes. After the service, a line formed, not to praise Malcolm, but to share their own struggles. I thought I was the only one, a young man confessed. Thank you for being real. From that day on, Malcolm's ministry changed. He no longer tried to hide his weakness. He let God use it. He saw that his battle was not a curse, but a bridge, connecting him to people's hearts. The anxiety didn't vanish, but his fear of it did. He lived out what Paul discovered. God's grace is sufficient, and his power is made perfect in weakness. Malcolm no longer measured his faith by his strength, but by God's strength through his weakness. And when asked how he kept going, he would smile and say, Because when I am weak, then I am strong.